Hi, everybody. Welcome to the December 23rd, 2016 edition of Colorado Inside Out Postgame, a special web exclusive production here on Channel 12. I'm your host, Dominic Dezzutti. Thanks for tuning in on our special look ahead, our 2016 wrap-up show. That's why we are all here in these great holiday sweaters. You'll see some of the greatest ones we have as we go around the table. Let's get a quick take on our wrap-up with our look at 2016 with the grab bag. We had police brutality cases against black men across the nation that made tragic national headlines. The A train to DIA made a subpar debut. Petition signature problems in the GOP Senate primary, the ever-shrinking Denver Post, ballot selfies, and the city of Denver paid out millions in settlements. Patty Calhoun from Westward, the whole grab bag that was 2016, that wasn't the election. Your take?
I'm going to return to something I talked about in the Say Something Nice, because we forget really how great Denver's art scene is. The cultural scene in the 6-county district, largely thanks to the SCFD, which we voted for back in 1988. We're really the only major metropolitan area in the country that puts this much money into the arts, and it's the reason people still like moving here. They don't like moving here for the bike lanes and the traffic. They like moving here because the city has so many amenities. There's so many interesting entrepreneurial efforts out there, many of them artistic, and that's a good reason to be optimistic in 2017. You might not like what's going on nationally, but you can always go see an art show, play, concert. Colorado has a lot of amenities.
A rosy look back to 2016. Nicely done, Patty. David Copel from the Independence Institute and DU Law School. As we look at the grab bag that was 2016, that wasn't the election, take your pick.
Well, one of the other depressing things has been the continuing shrinkage of the Denver Post. I mean, their motto could be, well, you're paying more, but you're getting much less. You know, they're still pretty good on sports coverage. Not as good as they used to be, but there's a lot of that. Other than that, you know, there's at most a few articles per day, at most, that really advance any news. You certainly wouldn't rely on the Post for anything other than, you know, to some degree of Colorado news. It's the national news hole has basically vanished there. But the good thing is there's other places coming in as supplements. The Colorado Statesman has been getting larger and bigger, and they have now a daily email newsletter. The Colorado Independent, with Susan Green, among others, who's a guest here, is also playing a role. Complete Colorado, which is affiliated with the Independence Institute, is doing its part. And I think that we're going to continue to see the Colorado Springs Gazette take advantage of the opening left by the hedge funds destruction of the Denver Post. I think the Gazette is going to challenge the Post over the next year as Colorado's leading newspaper.
I wholeheartedly agree. I think as we might look back at 2016 and say, did what the hedge fund did to the Denver Post really boost and create a better media market by getting the Colorado Springs Gazette? I mean, some of the major players they pulled off this year, they drafted Woody Page. They have Joey Bunch. I think there's another couple of folks. It's a significant paper. If the distribution changes a little bit, I think you're right, could be a significant topic for next year. Eric Sonne, political analyst. You look at all these different things, the Post, national headlines, local headlines. Where do you go for your grab bag?
Well, I'll ditto Patty, I'll ditto David. I thought both observations were right on the mark. My grab bag, I might violate the rule a little bit because there's an election connection to it. But as I look, I think one of the dynamics at play in this election that hadn't been discussed is it was Trump captured and exploited a reaction to some of the excesses of the left. I think there was a backlash here, not all that different than a backlash 40-some years ago that partially propelled Richard Nixon to the presidency. This country is still sorting out the whole issue of police violence. But there have also been excesses in terms of, particularly on the left, in terms of trying to disrespect every police officer, of the shootings in Dallas and other places where wholesale numbers of police officers were attacked. Whether it's that, whether it's the craziness on college campuses with the political correctness of safe spaces, of microaggressions and all that ridiculousness to try to shut down dissenting speech. I think there was a social reaction that you see in the diminished ratings for the National Football League, to the politicization of NFL and the national anthem. I think you put that all in its own little grab bag, Dominic, and I think some of this election was a reaction of a more conservative country to some of those liberal excesses. And I think one of the challenges to the left is going to be to mount a vigorous opposition to Donald Trump, but to jettison some of those crazier voices.
Sounds like a grab bag that you would find lit on fire on your front porch, the way you described it, Eric. That's well put. Penfield Tate, attorney at QTAC Rock, also a longtime state lawmaker. All these different issues, what stood out for you as we look back at 2016?
You know, I agree with much of what everyone else said, but I want to take Eric's point and just go a step further, because I think it is an undercurrent that at some point as a community we've got to talk about. We still haven't settled our conversation about race. And so many of these issues that Eric raised and others talked about there's an unsettledness about how this country deals with race, and to watch other countries around the world view how we deal with this dynamic is really quite interesting. Yeah, you have the problem with police officers being attacked, but you also have the legitimate concerns of the Black Lives Matter movement, where you have an increasing number of unarmed black men shot in the back, shot while driving away by police officers, and predominantly white juries acquitting them or charges never being filed. That whole issue has to be addressed. There are many who felt that part of Donald Trump's base was sort of that racist, antagonistic element, that it's almost like the South will rise again. This is our last shot at asserting our dominance. And you look at Steve Bannon and that appointment, Jeff Sessions, a whole host of things. There is still a racial undercurrent in this country. And I think part of the disappointment of some folks on the left is I think they felt that Barack Obama, as the first African-American president, might have furthered that conversation, and many felt that he just wasn't comfortable dealing with it and sort of left it on the table and moved on. But that's still, I think, an issue we've got to deal with as a country.
That's all the time we have for Colorado Inside Postgame this week. Leave us a comment and tell us what you think. For everyone here at CPT12.org, I'm Dominic Dezzutti. Thanks for watching.